This video is for informational and entertainment purposes only and utilizes artificial intelligence, AI. The information provided may not always be accurate. For important decisions, consult experts or professionals.
Welcome back. Today we got a big question. If a government could stop all major crime by using intrusive surveillance technology, is it ethically obligated to do so?
That's a heavy, important question, and I'll try to walk through it clearly and simply, like I'm talking to a friend over coffee. I'll explain the ethical reasons people give for and against such surveillance, what practical safeguards would matter, and then how we might weigh those considerations to reach a sensible conclusion. I'll keep the language straightforward and give real-world style examples so it's easy to follow. First, what do we mean by intrusive surveillance that stops all major crime? Imagine cameras and sensors everywhere, powerful face recognition, microphones picking up public speech, tracking of people's movements, analysis of transactions and phone data, and an algorithm or agency that uses all that to detect, prevent, and arrest anyone planning or committing a major crime. Stops all major crime means the technology is effectively perfect at preventing murders, violent assaults, major thefts, big fraud, the things most people fear. Now, why would some say the government is ethically obligated to use it? 1. Saving lives is morally powerful. If a tool genuinely prevents murder, rape, and violent harm, many ethical systems say we have a duty to use it. Imagine you could push a button that saved dozens of lives every day. Not using it feels like letting people die when you could have stopped it. From a common-sense view, preventing harm is a major moral good. 2. Utilitarian perspective. Greatest good for greatest number. If the surveillance drastically reduces suffering and increases safety, utilitarians say it's justified. Fewer victims, less trauma, lower economic costs of crime. That's a big net positive. 3. Social contract and government's purpose. Many people think governments exist to protect citizens' life and safety. If a government can prevent major crimes, some argue it would be failing its basic duty by refusing the tool. Those are strong arguments. But now the flip side, and this is where it gets complicated. 1. Privacy and dignity matter. Intrusive surveillance treats people as data points to be watched constantly. Privacy is not just a luxury. It's tied to dignity, autonomy, and being free to develop ideas, relationships, and a personal identity, without fear that everything you do is observed and judged. Constant surveillance can chill speech, association, and creativity. 2. Risk of abuse and power imbalances. Even if the tech prevents crime today, who controls it? Governments, police forces, or private contractors could misuse it to target political opponents, marginalized groups, or dissenters. History gives many examples of tools intended for public safety being repurposed for oppression. The bigger the surveillance net, the more tempting and damaging the abuse can be. 3. Justice and due process concerns. If algorithms flag people as likely criminals and authorities act preemptively, we can move from punishing crimes to punishing suspicion. That risks innocent people being punished or having their lives ruined on flimsy evidence. The presumption of innocence is a cornerstone of fair justice systems. 4. Erosion of trust and societal costs. A society where everyone feels watched can fracture trust. People may self-censor, withdraw from public life, or avoid civic participation. Those are real harms that reduce the quality of life in ways not captured by crime statistics. So we have a moral trade-off: preventing direct, measurable harms, crime, versus protecting less tangible but deep goods: privacy, freedom, equality, trust. How do we decide? Here are some ethical tests and practical safeguards to consider. Things a government would have to get right before we could say, yes, it's obligated. 1. Proportionality. Is the surveillance proportionate to the threat? If it stops all major crimes, it's a powerful benefit, but proportionality demands the intrusion be no more than necessary. Are there less invasive ways that achieve similar results? If not, proportionality might allow stronger measures, but only up to the minimum needed. 2. Effectiveness and certainty. The obligation depends on how confident we are that the technology really stops crime and doesn't cause equal or worse harms elsewhere. If the tech prevents crimes but produces massive wrongful arrests or drives people into more harmful underground behaviors, the net benefit may evaporate. 3. Safeguards, oversight, and transparency. Intrusive tools must be tightly governed. Independent oversight bodies, clear laws limiting use, transparent reporting, and meaningful rights for people to challenge decisions. Without these, the risk of abuse is too high. 4. Accountability and redress. If someone is wrongly targeted, there must be effective ways to clear their name and get compensation. If those systems are weak, the ethical argument for using the tech weakens. 5. Consent and democratic legitimacy. These tools touch on basic civic values. Their deployment should be decided through democratic debate and lawful processes, not secret executive fiat. Public input, judicial review, and legislative authorization matter a lot.
6. Equity and non-discrimination. Surveillance often disproportionately harms vulnerable groups. Algorithms can reflect societal bias, so we must ensure the system doesn't entrench racial, economic, or political injustice. 7. Sunset clauses and continual review. Technology and social norms change. Any approval should be temporary and subject to regular review, so society can reassess the balance of harms and benefits. Putting it together. Is the government ethically obligated? There's no single simple answer. But here's a reasoned conclusion that balances both sides. If the surveillance truly prevents all major crime and does so with proven high accuracy, minimal false positives, robust independent oversight, transparent rules and democratic approval, strong protections for privacy and civil liberties, effective remedies for mistakes, and clear limits on data use and retention, then many ethical frameworks would say the government would have a strong moral obligation to use it. The obligation comes from the duty to protect life and reduce suffering. But, and it's a big but, we rarely live in that ideal world. In practice, surveillance systems have imperfect accuracy, are vulnerable to abuse, and often operate under secrecy. So the realistic ethical stance for most governments is cautious. They are obliged to seriously consider and rigorously test such systems, but they are not ethically permitted to deploy them widely without the safeguards I mentioned. In other words, there's an obligation to explore the tool responsibly, not an unconditional obligation to turn it on everywhere. To make this practical for everyday people, ask these questions whenever your government says, "We need surveillance to keep you safe." How well does this tech actually work? What are the numbers on false alarms and wrongful interventions? Who controls the data and who watches the watchers? Is there an independent body that can audit this system and publish findings? Can someone wrongly accused easily clear their name? Are there limits on how long data is stored and who can access it? Has this been approved through democratic debate, not secretly? If those answers are solid, with laws, oversight, and transparency, then most citizens would reasonably accept the trade-off. If the answers are vague or secret, it's a red flag. Don't accept safety as the only justification. A final thought. Ethics isn't just about the numbers. It's about the kind of society we want. Safety is essential, but so is the freedom to be human without constant surveillance. We ought to ask not only, can we prevent all major crime, but at what cost to the kind of democracy, trust, and dignity we want to live in? The ethically sound path is to aim for both. Reduce crime while protecting rights, and if that truly isn't possible, pause and prioritize strong limits and independent control. So, short answer for the podcast. There can be an ethical obligation, but only under strict, democratically accountable conditions that minimize abuse and preserve basic rights. Without those, using intrusive surveillance is ethically risky and probably unjustified, no matter how effective it seems.